As we're getting to 11.4, we are going to start graphing our quadratic functions. I'd really recommend here using an online graphing calculator, which I'll show you in class. It can give you a lot of this information without having to do so much work by hand. But the first part here wants us to factor our function to find our intercepts. When I go to factor, I always like to look at my in term. And I think about what multiplies to give me 12. I've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And what I do is I try to think about these. Is there any way that when I do 1 plus 12 or 1 minus 12, I'm going to make 4? No. Negative 4 particularly. Is there any way if I do like 3 plus 4, I would get 7? If I did 4 minus 3, I would get 1, so that's not going to work. But if I did 2 minus 6, that gives me that negative 4 I want in the middle. So I could factor this problem into being x, and I go by sign, plus 2, x minus 6. And then what I do to find my points, my intercepts, I'm just going to change the sign. So this becomes negative 2 comma 0, and then that would become 6 comma 0. So I play with that in term to find the two that give me the middle. So let's see that again with another example. I think about 20. I'm trying to make 20 into negative 9. Okay, so what gives me 20? Well, I got 1 and 20, right? But 1 plus 20 gives me 21. I got minus, I got 19. That's not going to work. What else do I have? I have 2 and 10. 2 plus 10 is 12. 2 minus 10 is 8, not giving me 9. And I have 4 and 5. 4 and 5 I can definitely make into 9. I need to be careful here because I have negative. So if I made them both negatives, I would have negative 4, negative 5, which would give me a negative 9. So I'm playing around with all of that. And then I get I get x minus 4 and x minus 5 as my factors. So when I go to write them as points, I'm going to change the sign. This 4 turns positive 0, and my 5 likewise would turn positive. Again, there's a lot of apps or online programs that'll help you with this if you're struggling. So, don't feel like you can't use help. Or if you need to reach out to me, please reach out. And we're going to do the same thing here. We want to find our factors. So 24, trying to make it into 10. I want to try, what do we have? We have 6 and 4, I think. 6 and 4. Again, I need negative, so if I made my 6 negative and my 4 negative, that would give me that negative 10 that I'm looking for. There's other options, just trying to streamline this a little bit. So x minus 6, x minus 4, which means my points would be positive 6, 0, and positive 4, 0. Then it says to find the vertex. The vertex is the middle, so as we go to graph these parabolas, they're going to look like this, where we have our intercepts, which is what we've been calculating, and the vertex will be halfway between them. So I would do 6 plus 4 divided by 2. Well, what is 6 plus 4 divided by 2? That would give me 10 over 2, which is 5. So I'm going to do y equal to 5 squared. I'm plugging in that 5 minus 10 times 5 plus 24. Which would give me, 25 minus 50 plus 24, which would leave me with 1. So I have the point here, 5, 1. So I factor, and then I plug in half that distance to find my intercept. And we'll get into graphing this, and you'll see it a little more clearly in a second, but I'll do this one really fast. This would be 4 and 2. If I add those together, that equals out to that 6 in the middle. So I'd have x plus 4, x plus 2. I'm going to change my sign, so negative 4, comma 0, and negative 2, comma 0. Now I need to find half that distance, so negative 4 plus negative 2 divided by 2. Negative 4 plus negative 2 would give me negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. So we're going to plug in our negative 3 to our equation. Negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 8. That's that. That's going to give me a 9 minus 18 plus 8, which would give me negative 1. So this would be the point negative 3, negative 1 for our intercept. With these parabolas, we need to have these 3 points to be able to graph them. Again, you can also graph them using a calculator, which I'll show you a bit in class, which might make this a lot easier for you. So we're going to graph our functions. We need our intercepts first. Okay, this is the same problem. I say they gave me a graph and other things to do. This is great when you get a prime number. My only options are 3 and 1. Well, 3 plus 1 gives me 4, so I'd have x plus 3, x plus 1, because everything's positive here. Change my sign, 0, 3, and 1, 0. So I want to graph these points first. This is telling me that I don't move up in my y direction, and I would go back 3, and I would go back 1. So there are 2 out of 3 points. Again, synergy, or apex, has a lot of multiple choice. Use that to your advantage. If you graph those 2 points, and like half of your answers don't have those 2 points, well, maybe you can do 50-50 if you're not understanding the vertex as well. But to find the vertex, I now do negative 3 plus negative 1 divided by 2, which would give me negative 4, divided by 2, which is negative 2. So my vertex is going to be somewhere in the middle here between these 2 points. And we're going to plug it in. So y equals negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 3. So that gives me 4 minus 8 plus 3, which would give me negative 1. So I have the point negative 2 comma negative 1, which would be down here. And graphing it would look like that. We have a nice little U shape going on. If you're not ending up with a vertex between your original 2 points, you've probably messed up somewhere. So for our next problem, it's set up a little bit differently. It's actually set up in a little bit nicer of a way, I think, if I am remembering. Okay, so what I want to do here, to make my life easier, oh, this one's the y-intercept. Okay, that's a little different. For y-intercept, I'm just going to plug in 0 for x. So y equals 0 minus 1 squared minus 4. So that would be negative 1 squared minus 4, which would be 1 minus 4, which is negative 3. So I want to graph the point 0, x is 0, negative 3. So 0, negative 3 would be down here. So this one wanted our y-intercept. It's not asking for x-intercept. And then we want to do our vertex from there. And this is actually in our vertex form is what we call it. So when you have this format, y equals x plus or minus a squared plus or minus b, we call this vertex form. And so what's happening here is A, you change the sign of A, comma B is what your vertex would be. So here I would change the sign of my 1 and keep that -4, and that should be my vertex. Okay, so it's only for this particular form that this works, and I can graph that point x is 1, -4. Since the vertex has to be in the middle, I would assume something like this, and I could get a general sketch of my graph going on. When you have something like this is where I would be using a calculator to kind of figure things out. We can piece together a few things. Like, I know I have my intercepts there, right? So that would be at the point x is 1, 0, and x is 6, 0. Working backwards, I'm going to have 1, and x is -6. So I can see if I can find something like that. Well, it's right here. So that would be how I would go about finding the answers, using the points. Oh, okay. So which parabola has a smaller minimum? So we need to find our vertex. For B, my vertex is here, so I don't have to do much work. I just need to write it down. So that is the point x is -4, 0. So we're trying to figure out who's lower. So I need to find my vertex here. I can start off by figuring out what the in between my 2 points. So 7. 7's going to 7. So 7 doesn't factor nicely. Oh, okay, right. We can use there's a vertex formula, which is -b over 2a, or is it just b over 2a? What am I looking for? No, it's -b. I was right. Alright, so -b over 2a. So this is kind of calling back to what we were doing with our quadratic formula, just much shorter. We've got a and we've got b. So -2, -2, or -2 over 2 times a, which gives me 2 over 2, which is 1. And I'm going to plug that in. So y will equal 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 7. 1 minus 2 minus 7, which is going to give me -8. So my vertex here would be the point 1, -8. -8 would be somewhere, down here, which means that my parabola A is much lower minimum. It's going down much further than my previous one. So that is our graphing parabolas. Again, a lot of this, there are graphing tools, so I would highly recommend using those where applicable.